Now we return to local news with Janet.
An MP has praised the beacons of our community at a Ponders End group through a thank you party for its volunteers. A themed tea party for volunteers at Trinity Bowes Community Centre welcomed special guest David Burrows, MP for Enfield Southgate. Mr Burrows said, "I was delighted to say thank you to these beacons of our community who volunteer countless hours to care for the vulnerable and the needy." The volunteers at the Palmerston Road Centre keep going by helping out by any means necessary, whether that be by cleaning the centre, making the tea and coffee, etc. Volunteer coordinator Linda George says, "The volunteers are absolutely fantastic. They give so much of their time. It's amazing. The centre is very blessed. We have the most energetic, caring, giving, selfless, devoted volunteers you could ask for." Sheila Creer, 68, who has been volunteering at the centre since 1994, said, "I do whatever is needed, a jack of all trades, but it means something when we have a day like this. Here you are accepted for who you are, which is great." Fellow volunteer Barbara Biggs, 76, paid tribute to her long-serving colleague. She said, "Things would fall apart without Sheila."
Network Rail has said it will not consider reopening a level crossing in Bush Hill Park, despite a vocal campaign by residents against the sudden closure. People living in and around Lincoln Road met councillors and Network Rail officials at a public transport consultative group meeting, but were told the level crossing will remain closed. The group had presented a petition at the council's cabinet meeting 2 weeks ago, urging the authority to take action against Network Rail. They say the closure, in place since December, while the gates underwent repair after a vehicle drove into them, has led to a reduction in trade for local businesses, increased congestion in Southbury Road, and daytime access problems for emergency vehicles. Network Rail says the crossing will be closed permanently because of ongoing safety concerns, but conceded that the company was willing to work with residents and the council to resolve issues around signage and pedestrian access. The company also said there had never been official permission for vehicles to cross the tracks. A spokeswoman said, "It is felt that the narrow and humped nature of the crossing would push vehicles onto the pedestrian walkway, putting pedestrians at risk of injury." As the level crossing was due for closure, the expense of any mitigation work would be unjustifiable, so we made the decision to close the crossing to all vehicles. A further study is being carried out, looking into improving the pedestrian facilities for crossing the railway in this area, and we have set up a working group with the council and have a commitment to work with them on signage. Chris Bond, the council's cabinet member for environment, said, "We asked Network Rail to reopen the crossing for a short period to monitor traffic, but they point-blank refused. It's a bit of a guess for us how much traffic is flowing over the surrounding roads. We are looking at pedestrian access for the crossing, and we are setting up a working group to discuss its future. We do hope that Network Rail have learned their lesson, so that if they are going to close any more crossings, they do it for the appropriate routes and carry out a proper consultation."
Hundreds of people lined Enfield streets to show their support for the nation's servicemen and women. Led by the Caledonian Pipers Band, a parade marking Armed Forces Day began outside Chaseside Primary School in Trinity Street. People came out of their homes and nearby shops to watch the veterans marching in unison with serving troops and their families, recruits and cadets. Brendan Farrell, chairman of the Royal British Legion Enfield branch, said, "It was great to see so many people turn out in support. The parade is important to honour those who are still serving and those who have done their bit. If we didn't have people like them, there would be chaos all over the world. This is our way of saying thank you to them for giving their heart and soul for us so that we can have peace." The parade, organised by Enfield Borough Council and Enfield Royal British Legion, finished with a celebratory party in the Enfield Royal British Legion branch in Holt Whites Hill. An Armed Forces Community Covenant signed by representatives from the London Armed Forces, members of the Council, Police and NHS, as well as other public service providers, was unveiled, showing support for those who have served in the Armed Forces. Councillor Doug Taylor, leader of Enfield Council, said, "We must also honour those who have lost their lives so bravely in the defence of our freedom."
Now here is some information from Enfield Council in conjunction with DHL Enviro Solutions and the North London Waste Authority about an electrical recycling service. Do you have a drawer full of cables, a broken freezer in the garage? Is your attic full of unwanted electricals? North London Waste Authority, along with DHL Enviro Solutions, has launched a free service to help you recycle your waste electricals directly from your doorstep. In the UK alone, around 1 million tonnes of waste electrical and electronic equipment, or WEEE, is generated every year. A scheme called 123 Recycle for Free has been launched to make it easy for North London residents to recycle all waste electricals, large and small. The scheme has already helped residents clear out over 230 tonnes of waste since April 2012. That's equivalent to clearing out 50 African elephants from North London homes. To arrange your free collection, simply call 0800 085 1050. That's 0800 085 1050. Collection staff can even help you remove large and bulky WEEE items from your home. WEEE facts. Anything with a battery or plug can be recycled. By recycling one iron, enough steel is recovered to make 13 cans. A 98.9% recovery rate is achieved for all TVs and small electricals sent for recycling in North London. Nearly the whole item can be processed and turned into something useful. In the UK, we buy around 22 million new phones every year. It pays to know about WEEE in North London. Ellie Nye from Camden was the lucky winner of £500 worth of shopping vouchers in a recent competition. The prize draw was the final step in a campaign to highlight WEEE recycling across the area. The campaign invited residents to find out more about recycling, and those who did were entered into a prize draw. For every entry received, DHL donated £1 to charity. To learn more about preventing and recycling electrical waste, visit www.wiseuptowaste.org/WEEE. And to find out how you can be the next lucky winner and enter the competition for free online, look at www.wiseuptowaste.org.uk/WEEE.
Enfield MP Nick Dubois and David Burrows went head-to-head in a cricket match that helped raise more than £10,000 for charity. The game was part of a fundraising day for Making a Difference, which aims to bring young and old together to help the youth into employment. The charity seeks over 50s who are unemployed to mentor young people and prepare them for the working world. The game, played at Holt White's Cricket Club, Kirkland Drive, Enfield, was part of a whole host of events that saw prizes auctioned to the public, as well as a barbecue staged last Friday. Enfield North MP Mr Dubois, whose team won, said, "What is so important is the end result of this will provide direction for young people who may have academic skills but are lacking a little bit in cutthroat to help them get into the working environment." Enfield Southgate MP Mr Burrows added, "It brings together two wasted talents in Enfield, both over 50s who are out of work and have lots still to offer, and young people in our borough who are still to reach their potential, and bringing together these two areas as a really exciting project."
A much-loved teenager jumped in front of a train travelling at 80 miles an hour in a moment of madness, an inquest has heard. William Davis of Compton Road, Winchmore Hill, died from multiple injuries after stepping in front of the high-speed service at Cheshunt Station on Tuesday, February the 12th this year. Hatfield Coroner's Court heard last Wednesday how the 16-year-old took his own life because of teenage angst with his girlfriend. William, affectionately known as Charlie, changed his Facebook status after finding out another girl had said she liked him and claimed she would harm herself if he did not feel the same way. This led to a heated flurry of text messages with his girlfriend, which left William feeling troubled. Coroner Edward Thomas said he was a caring person. The decision to do what he did was nearly instantaneous. He probably felt troubled, like he let someone down. It shows his caring character, how he was concerned he was not able to rectify what happened. Sadly, when young people have a time when something upsetting happens, or it is not going quite right, they sometimes feel that is it. It was building up in his head. It is an immediate thing. It is teenage angst. On the morning of his death, his college teacher said William asked to be excused at 10:30 because he had not slept the night before. When he arrived home, he told his mother and brother he was in a bad mood and went up to his room, and then left the house at around 1 p.m. Witness Joshua Blundell told the court how he arrived on platform 2 of the station at 2 p.m. and saw William standing on the platform. He added, "It looked like he threw himself forward. It looked like it was a deliberate act. He didn't stumble." Detective Sergeant Adrian Naylor of the British Transport Police Fatality Investigation Unit said the Stansted Airport-bound train was not due to stop at the station. CCTV footage showed there was nobody else in the area when the teenager fell. William's father told the court, "I feel it was a moment of madness at the wrong time and the wrong place. There was nothing there to stop him doing it. We have gone through so much." William was an aspiring engineer who hoped to study at Brunel University. He was a dedicated explorer scout who joined the 5th Southgate Scout Group in Winchmore Hill 10 years ago. Mr. Thomas said, "Everyone who knew him described him as a nice guy. He was someone they could go to with their problems, but he never spoke about his own. He was kind, considerate, intelligent and wonderful. He was a much-loved and well-thought-of young boy, which is why this is so tragic."
In a bid to distance himself from the image of fat cat politicians living in luxury at the taxpayers' expense, one Enfield MP has turned his nose up at the offer of a pay rise. Nick Dubois, Conservative MP for Enfield North, issued a public statement insisting that accepting the proposed pay rise of almost £10,000 would not be fair to my constituents, he said. His determination to remain on his current salary of about £66,000 comes after reports emerged that the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority will recommend next week that pay for politicians should rise to £75,000. However, Mr Dubois, who won his Enfield North seat from Labour's Joan Ryan in 2010, after she was caught up in the expenses scandal, said, "My job is to represent my constituents' interests. I publish my expense claims on my website every month and try to give good value to the residents I serve. Accepting such a pay rise would not be fair to my constituents." His Edmonton counterpart, Labour's Andy Love, has said that the wage hike should only go ahead if all public sector workers are boosted equally. Responding to Mr Dubois' call for austerity, Mr Love said any decision for an increase in MPs' pay must be consistent with what is happening to nurses, teachers and other in the public sector, as well as conditions in the private sector. I am clear that any decision by the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority must reflect wider economic circumstances. That is why it is right that MPs have had their pay frozen for several years, given the circumstances facing my constituents. The Conservative MP for Enfield Southgate, David Burrows, has called for a wholesale reform of the way in which politicians are paid, and insists that the best way to curb the excesses of Westminster would be to ban expenses altogether. He told the Advertiser, "My own view is that the remuneration of MPs should be reformed by scrapping expenses. In any event, we need to reduce the cost of politics, nationally and locally." Following the expenses scandal, the issue of deciding the amount of MPs' salary, pension, expenses was rightly taken out of the hands of MPs and given to an independent authority.
In a bid to boost employment in the borough, council chiefs have teamed up with business bosses to pledge their support for nurturing homegrown construction talent. The council's regeneration department and the North London Chamber of Commerce declared their determination to ramp up the number of skilled workers in the borough when they signed a pledge to actively support local employment in the area. at the Enfield campus of the College of Haringey, Enfield and North East London in Hertford Road, Enfield. The public commitment to boosting employment, specifically in the construction sector, came while the college was playing host to Enfield's first Construction Jobs and Careers Employment Fair. The drive to increase the number of construction workers is a bid to ensure that multi-billion-pound regeneration projects, such as the £1.3 billion Meridian Water development in Edmonton, employs workers from the borough. Council member for Regeneration, Del Goddard, warned that it would be a wasted opportunity if the planned series of regeneration works set to go ahead in the coming years did not employ local workers. He said, "I'm delighted that business leaders and the construction industry have agreed to put recruitment at the top of their list of priorities and are going to give a firm commitment to making sure workers have the skills they need to help build the Enfield of tomorrow." Speaking on behalf of the business leaders who put their names to the pledge, Hugh Jones, Chief Executive Officer at North London Chamber of Commerce, said that the Charter would also aim to keep supply chains local by buying through the Chamber's newly launched online directory, www.connectdirect.org. Employers turned out in force to support the move to boost local construction, with representatives from Enfield Homes, Notting Hill Housing, Mullally's and London and Quadrant all attending.
Edmonton MP Andy Love has said that more needs to be done to tackle diabetes, amid warnings that a sixth of NHS resources could be spent on fighting the disease by 2035. Mr. Love says that as an increasing number of young people are being diagnosed with diabetes, there should be more focused shift of NHS and public health resources towards educating an increasing number of people about the risks of an unhealthy diet and lack of exercise. Diabetes, a condition in which the body does not use or produce insulin properly, is having an increasing impact on healthcare services in the borough. Figures released by the Royal College of Nursing show that an estimated 19,000 people in Enfield are living with the disease. Diabetes cases are expected to rise throughout London by 48% by 2030 to 710,000, and the capital's ethnic diversity makes the challenge even more acute, as people from South Asia and Afro-Caribbean descent are up to 6 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than people from other ethnic groups. Mr. Love told the Advertiser, "We need stronger health and well-being campaigns, ensuring that local authorities team up with GPs and district nurses and communities so that the right message goes out to people. I'm not talking about massive expenditure, but a more focused shifting of resources to tackling the issue." Christine Hamilton, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Public Health, said, "We are committed to supporting the NHS commissioners to commission high-quality care with diabetes, including considering commissioning diabetes self-care programs such as the Daphne and Desmond schemes. As a council, we commission NHS health checks and will be running a diabetes early awareness campaign next year. The mounting concern comes as the London Assembly Health Committee launched a major review of diabetes services in the capital.
A restaurant has been fined £600 after disturbing neighbours with a noisy extractor fan. Larka in High Street, Enfield, was warned in September last year to reduce the volume of its extractor flue, but breached the noise abatement notice on October the 19th, when the Enfield Borough Council found the fan operating at full speed. The company refused to pay the fixed penalty notice and was found guilty in its absence at court on Friday, June the 21st. It was also ordered to pay £1,325 in costs and a £60 victim surcharge. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for the Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "Residents have the right to a bit of peace and quiet, and it is completely unacceptable for businesses to flout noise abatement notices to serve their own interests. Noise nuisance can have a terrible effect, and we do everything we can to ensure that people living in Enfield are protected from the harassment and distress caused by noisy neighbours. whether they're people playing music or television at too high a volume, or businesses using loud industrial equipment. This sentence sends out a clear message that quiet, if not complete silence, is golden for many people, and we'll try our hardest to keep things that way.
Councillors, health professionals and residents discussed ways of promoting healthy lifestyles for an ageing population at a recent conference. The agenda for this year's Enfield Over 50s Forum conference, which was held at the Dugdale Centre in London Road, Enfield, was the impact of longer life expectancy on the health and social services and what people can do to give themselves the best prospect for a long and healthy old age. Speakers included Amy Fairbairns, Director of Service Quality Services and Integrated Government at the Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, and David Sinclair, Assistant Director of Policy at the International Longevity Centre, a think tank studying the impact of an ageing population on the economy. Monty Meth, Life President of the Forum, said it is coincidental that the conference took place in the year that we celebrate the 65th birthday of the NHS. Back in 1948 there were only 200,000 people aged over 85 and over in this country. Now there are 1.4 million, rising to 3 million by 2050. With so many people living longer, unless we keep people healthy and fit for a longer period, people's quality of life will deteriorate, and the cost to the health service will be enormous.
Boxer Andreas Evangelou is hoping to challenge for a title before the end of this year, after he extended his undefeated record with a victory against James Ducker. The Enfield light heavyweight claimed a points win in the 6-round contest against Ducker at the Civic Hall in Grays recently. The victory made it 8 professional fights unbeaten for the boxer, known as the Ace. He said Ducker was one of the toughest opponents he has faced. It was a good experience for me, he said, because he was a difficult opponent. He showed his experience throughout the fight and he tried to rough me up a bit, so I had to adapt. But the hard fights are the ones that you want, because that then pushes you further and helps you improve. I'm pleased that I'm still undefeated. I want to keep that 0 on my record, no matter what level I am fighting at. Going into the fight, Evangelou said he hoped to stop the Doncaster fighter. He said, "He's only been stopped 3 times in his 75 fights, so I knew that it would have been tough to stop him. If I had done, it would have been a bonus. But to get the win is pleasing, and knowing that I can better an experienced, tough opponent certainly gives me plenty of confidence going forward." Evangelou will head out to America at the end of July with his brother Chris for a training camp. On returning to the UK, 29-year-old Andreas has set his sights on a title fight. He said, "I'm waiting to hear from Matchroom, but it's likely that I will have an 8-round fight when I come back, and then hopefully go for a title. I think it would probably challenge for the English Southern Area title. It would certainly be nice to win one of them."
Children have been tying themselves in knots in an effort to recreate the aromatic, authentic piece of Elizabethan culture in a corner of the borough. Green-fingered primary school youngsters have been cultivating cuttings of sweet-smelling herbs, including mint, chamomile and lemon balm, native plants which would have been grown in the area in the 16th and 17th centuries. Children from 8 primary schools are now planting their carefully nurtured herbs in an intricate design in the grounds of Forty Hall Estate, Forty Hill. The geometric design is based on the complicated patterns printed on the ceiling of the hall and recreates the impressive topiary of status-simple Elizabethan knot gardens that feature in many manor houses and stately homes of that period. Forty Hall was built in 1632, shortly after the end of Elizabeth I's reign. Praising the way children had learned about local history through the project, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Culture, Youth and Localism, Bambas Chararambas, said, "This is an interesting, hands-on project which allows children to learn the history of the local area in such a fantastic way. The knot garden will be completed by the end of this month, and will be in bloom through the rest of the summer."
There's a colourful picture here of some smiling faces before some tempting plates of cakes and biscuits. And the article, colleagues from Asda Southgate took time away from the checkout to set up a charity coffee morning in aid of a homelessness charity. Guests were invited to enjoy a hot brew and a cake at St Andrew's Hall in Chaseside, where Asda staff were raising money for Crisis UK. Pessy Bellau, Asda's Southgate's community life coach, said, "We wanted to raise awareness for the charity because homelessness is increasing. It affects lots of people for different reasons, young and old, people with mental health or drinking problems, or those going through family breakups. Crisis UK does great work helping those individuals regain their self-worth and gives them the confidence they need to get back into society. The coffee morning is one of many events planned to raise money for the charity. In total, they have raised £721 towards their £1,000 target."
Lawrence Fanuzza Davis and Georgia Green were both double winners for Enfield and Haringey Athletic Club in the latest meeting of the Southern Premier Division of the United Kingdom Under-17 and Under-20 Youth Development League in Reading. Fanuzza Davis shone at A-string level in the men's Under-20 events as he claimed top spot in the long jump, 6.44 metres, and the triple jump, 14.57 metres, while Green matched his achievement for the Under-17 girls by winning the 80 metres hurdles, 12.18 seconds, and long jump, 5.52 metres. Enfield and Haringey had to settle for a fourth-place finish on the day as they slipped from third to fifth in the league table with one meeting remaining.
We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Janet, Kathryn, John and Keith and Ian on the controls, it's goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diana Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with the Enfield Talking newspaper. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.